requires you to lead projects and volunteer. Can you tell us about your experience leading a team?
Sure. So the best example that I want to give you is actually from my PY turn. So over the last 6 months, I've been heading up a new maintenance program in Toronto Hydro, where I've been coordinating over 20 people in 3 different departments, and that's a $6 million maintenance program. So that's pretty much what I do day to day at work, is leading a team, and I think that it's been pretty successful. So that's what I'll tell you in terms of concrete leadership experience, which is what you asked for. But I want to tell you something else as an answer to your question, which is that having leadership experience, it's not the question you want to ask. What you want to ask is, how do I know that you can be a good leader? And the easiest thing to ask about is about leadership experience. But you know what? We have a lot of examples here of people who failed to be leaders in NSOC. A lot of people who should have been leaders for NSOC who weren't. So necessarily having been in those leadership roles, that's not everything. What you need is the right attitude. You need to have a vision. You need to know how to get it done. And you need to know exactly how you're going to motivate people to get it done for you. And that's what I have, and that's even better than experience.
Abby, would you like to answer that as well? Experience? Do you want to do that?
Okay, cool. So I guess part of NSOC's NSOC president's portfolio is being the vice presidents, 5 of them. So I've actually had the privilege of being 2 of them. In the communications, actually, that's a bigger portfolio. I've led 10 directorships in them, and also a communications committee. I guess just moving on to Frosh Week, that was just a whole shitload of people, which included 4 execs, 20
people.
Yeah, somewhere around there, that number. So I think I've been a good leader in that sense, because everyone in the end did respect me for the position that I had, and then in the end we did come out with successful Frosh Week for the Wikify Frosh.
And I'll touch base with that as well. So definitely, I mentioned one of my leadership experiences with Frosh Week as well. I have been VP Student Life, but I will be honest, most of that was independent work, so I'm not going to cite that as a team experience. Like Rishi, actually, at work right now on PUI, that's probably one of my most tangible leadership experiences at the moment, where I'm leading a cross-disciplinary team to tackle consumer complaints, which is a very kind of fluffy issue in some senses, but it's very highly regarded by our business at the national level. So it's definitely something that's been a very good learning experience for me, coordinating the projects and actually getting the team to perform. Because again, it is a cross-disciplinary team, and most of those people are much more qualified and experienced than I am. So being able to lead, people who are like twice my age is a pretty interesting experience. So yeah.
Next question, Kim.
Yeah, this is specifically towards Rishi. It's just an interesting point I read on Facebook. So you mentioned something about for cutting the funds by 50%. You mentioned combining the canon and the toy. So what's the basis for this? Why do you think that students will actually want this to happen? Yeah, people want more funding, but why is combining the toy and the canon?
Well, I'll ask you the reverse question. Why would you think that students don't want it to happen when nobody reads the canon? See, the problem is it costs us a lot of money to print those newspapers, and if we can't, it's not just a matter of saying this is a good thing, because none of the things that we do are bad things. It's not like we're taking money outside and lighting it on fire. So what we need to do with all of our projects is measure them against the potential benefit of using that money somewhere else, right? And for example, printing the Canon newspaper, that's a subsidy cost. When you consider the revenue they bring in from advertising, of about $3,000 a year. I really question how much of an impact that's having on students, because when we look at our census results, we see that people are not reading the Canon. It's not even being that well distributed. It benefits really the people that are making it, and they're going to get exactly the same experience, for example, in layout and printing, from putting that content right into the toy, which we're still paying to have.
Do you guys want to answer that question as well? Or?
That was his point.
Okay. Next question over there.
I have, I guess, kind of
The girl thing. Oh,
sorry. My question is, what will NSOC do, or what will you do to improve the kind of communication gap between the upper years and lower years? I'm really ashamed to say that I just had a little bit conflict with the 4th year upper years. And I really want to know is that, as Albert just mentioned, he won objectives and metrics, which is we just learned from APS, whatever, yeah. So I really want to know how you will fill in this gap, this communication gap, because I know all of you here, 4th years, you really put yourself out there, so that's why a lot of first years knows them, and you really do a lot of things for first year, whatever Godava week, whatever Frosh week. But the thing is, a lot of upper years don't even care about them. They don't even go to those events, and they don't even care about talking to first years. So that's why I really want to see how you would measure this and how you would do this.
Albert, you want to start?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting point actually, and to be completely honest, I'm going to be completely honest with you, it's not something I've thought about in the past, right? So one thing I do want to emphasize, what Rishi brought up at the beginning of this debate, is that as president, even having one substantial project is considered something worthwhile doing in a year, right? So not to say that this isn't, something that's super important, but it's something that I haven't been able to give much thought to. Off the top of my head, really I think the key is trying to integrate with the discipline clubs. Right? Because if you want to interact with upper years, primarily it is with upper years in your own discipline that have shared the academic experiences that you have, that shared the social experiences that you may have as well. So to really kind of get them on board with thinking, hey, can we run mentorship programs? Can we run, facilitate interactions between upper year students and lower year students for the benefit of both sides? And how do we sell that? How do we market that? And what is the root benefit there? Right? So that's just off the top of my head, but again, that's honestly something I haven't had a chance to think about, but we can talk about it later.
Yeah, so I haven't thought about that either, but I've got, I guess, a different approach to that right now. So I know that the couple of events that you mentioned right now, Frosh Week, Godava Week, that's where upper year students interact with first year, second years. Those two events are very similar to each other in nature and the people it actually attracts. So what you're saying is that there is a large group of other upper years that don't interact with lower years.
Yes.
So what you want to do, or just thinking right now, is that create events that target those students that would let them interact with, I guess, first and second year students who have the same interests. So that's one way to go about it.
I'm just going to interpret your question a little bit. I think what you're asking about is why are there so many douchebags in the Atrium? Is that what you're asking? And I want to sort of market myself as the anti-douche because actually I hold a rare distinction among I think the people that I know, which is that to give you an example, I actually had last year in last year's DOD election, I actually submitted the complaint that got someone that I wanted to win disqualified. So why would I do that? Because I have a sense of fairness, and I'm really big on that, and I really think that everyone deserves to be treated fairly. And you know what? And it's when you screw up, and it's when you do well, you still deserve to be treated fairly. And I think by promoting that attitude, and by also just being willing to slap down some of those douchebags when they need it, I think that I'll be able to promote a bit of a more healthy atmosphere for you in the engineering society.
Just additional question. I just want to ask a question about something related to academic. The issue that I have conflict with the fourth year is because I'm having a tutorial in the computer lab, and everybody knows that when we are having a tutorial lab, our TA is very busy. So he's running around trying to help students, but those upper years just constantly coming in and trying to use the computers, which our TA tell them, please don't come in, we are having a tutorial. And that student in fourth year, he just coming and he just say, so, and he's just coming using the computer. My TA tried to telling you, oh, okay, you should actually get out. But the thing is, he didn't listen. So how do you deal with this issue? Or how can you tell? So I know some TA are very nice. They say, okay, if we have more available computers, you can come and use it. But some TA are not. Is there a certain rules for that, or what should we do with it? Can we just search quickly online for this?
I just wanted to know, so when the upper year student came into your class,
Yes.
Were there any open computers?
What? Sorry?
Were there any open computers?
Actually, let's,
No.
I think we kind of get the point of the question. I want to keep this away from being a discussion, so we can move through everybody's questions. Rishi, since you like to interpret, do you want to begin?
Yeah, so I guess
Oh, sorry. The real question is,
Okay.
the real question is the attitude thing. Whether if this person is not a TA, it's a lower year student, should you still show some respect to them at the upper year? Seriously, I really.
well, I mean, I would say when you go to a classroom, the instructor is in charge. So if the instructor in a classroom tells you to leave, I mean, that this is university property, so we're all using it subject to the terms the university has set out. When the university appoints someone to be in charge of a certain space, they do have the authority to tell you to leave. So, I mean, if you go into a computer lab and there's a class there and the TA tells you to leave, you just have to leave. It doesn't really matter who you are or how many hard hats you have. You really just need to leave.
Okay, Albert?
The answer to that is yes. Basically, yeah, upper years, there's no reason the upper years should hold any kind of stature over the first and second years. I mean, that doesn't, I mean, that's a personal personality thing, right? I mean, it's not really a kind of a cultural attitude, I don't think, and I have been lucky enough not to experience that myself, but that's really all I can comment.
Yeah, I really don't think it's an upper year, lower year thing. I guess a good way to go about it would be to let the upper year students know that this is also a computer lab that is available for you outside. So you could try using that one.
Okay, thanks. Next question from Peter.
Okay, this one's for Abby. You mentioned in your introductory statement that you wanted to align NSOC priority with hours or with the students. And you said the priorities are education and jobs, and I agree with you with the jobs part, but my marks have shown that I don't really give a shit about class. So, I personally care a lot about extracurriculars because I think that they provide a lot of professional and character development to the people who run those things. So what do you think of the extracurricular side of NSOC, and how do you foresee yourself dealing with clubs, ex officios, and other things like that?
So the third point on my platform is about developing a better relationship with discipline clubs and affiliate clubs, because I do believe that is very important also. I think I'm the same way as you in terms of marks and whatnot, right? So I guess just like
I know you are, but okay.
So just like dealing with that, I want to provide resources such as expanded club funding that is available for discipline clubs and affiliate clubs. And also, another point that I mentioned on my campaign was to have some kind of conference, or I guess something a little less formal, a way for clubs to interact with each other, discipline clubs or affiliated clubs to interact with each other to see how they can improve their services to their students.
By communicating to each other?
Exactly.
Like
Yeah.
Anybody else want to comment?
Sure. So, I mean, the other 2 points on my platform, as stated on Facebook and on other pages, again, skills development program that is targeted to try and promote professional skills development that is targeted for positions in clubs and extracurriculars. And secondly, kind of what Abby said, but encouraging more student group to student group interaction, both within the university and outside of the university. Things like our stores, even things like school night have the potential to learn from other productions that happen throughout the, throughout the country. Like Master has a really good similar kind of production that I think that we could maybe look at. So really encouraging that communication.
There's something that I want to say which is like sort of tangentially related to your questions. I'm just going to say it anyway. One thing that disappointed me this year is I've seen much more of a gap between the NSOC office and the Atrium. It's like there's really actually no overlap at all this year, and that's really disappointing to me, because one thing that I think has always been great about our community is that we have the same groups of people that are running our student society are also participating in all the activities that are affiliated and associated with it. So one thing that I really want to see is I want to see that barrier broken down, and I want to see that's one continuous space as far as I'm concerned. Like the NSOC office is like part of the pit, so that's I want to see, like, for example, if I was president, I want to see officers going out to events, being involved in all the things that are happening at school, because like having that visibility is a big part of the bond that people have with NSOC.
Great, thanks. I'm going to jump in here with another